I think I have to put a little pushback on that. I think blue ocean strategy, what they're talking about is okay, there's a sea of saints. You're in that sea. And as a result of
Hmm.
being in that sea, it's all red. Now, how do you go somewhere else that there is
Hmm.
no red? Now, that's one way.
Hmm.
I'm saying let's look at what they're doing in the red and going,
Hmm.
can we interpolate? This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. Rob, I am wondering if we've been doing business all wrong. Now, you've heard me kind of say this sometime before, but everybody, if you're listening out there, ask yourself this question. Are you doing things right? Is your ladder up against the wrong wall? Because I have been coming across all this information, whether it's Mr. Beast doing a thing or business models that look the same or commercials that kind of look the same or cars that look kind of the same. And it's because of this one thing, and it's called interpolation. Interpolation, everybody, means, and we're going to tell you what it means here in a minute, but Rob knows what it means. Interpolation. We're trying to create stuff from ether, and they might be wrong. And I'm watching Mr. Beast
Yeah.
and all these people, man, come out and they're just modeling,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And I'm going to go
Yeah.
deeper into this. We've talked a little bit about this before, but I want to go deeper
Yeah.
into it.
We talk about
So
it even, and it's funny. The funniest thing when you brought this up to me, and I think a lot of you all maybe have this experience as well when you're listening to this episode. We talk about blue ocean strategy all the time without ever realizing that it was talking about this.
I think I have to put a little pushback on that. I think blue ocean strategy, what they're talking about is okay, there's a sea of saints. You're in that sea. And as a result of
Hmm.
being in that sea, it's all red. Now, how do you go somewhere else that there is
Hmm.
no red? Now, that's one way.
Hmm.
I'm saying let's look at what they're doing in the red and going,
Hmm.
can we interpolate? Because
Yeah. No,
there's a
I
reason
agree.
why there's so many sharks, if you will, in the water
Yep.
because something's in there
Hmm.
working and now they're just fighting over it. How can we
Yeah.
say, what could we use here? Pull it out. And this is something Dan Priestley says. He says, how can we take something that's commoditized? Watch this.
Hmm. Hmm.
Commoditize and decommoditize. I was like, oh,
Exactly. And that's the whole thing. And I guess the analogy, if you're looking at it, is just like that. You're looking at the red ocean and you're taking something out of the red ocean and putting it into a different part of the ocean, right? It's not that, right, when they in blue ocean strategy, they talk about yellowtail wines. They didn't recreate wine. They didn't make a
mm-hmm,
new type of drink.
mm-hmm,
What they did is they said, here's wines and here's what they doing over here.
mm-hmm.
We're gonna change a couple of the things that they already doing, and we're gonna put it over here
So
in
you
this
make
other
it blue
spot.
ocean. And that's okay,
So
okay,
you
all
make it
right,
blue ocean,
okay.
right? And that is the whole idea of like taking the thing that's different and putting it into something else. And I think, you know, for a lot of us in business, like this is how our minds work. So I think today, just for you all to as you're listening, because I know that we come with some different words, some different ideas. I want you to be encouraged today because I think that you already have the skill set that Randy and I are about to be
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
This is something that is germane and natural for entrepreneurs because we see the world a little bit differently. But I think that Randy's got some really cool things that he's going to share with you today that are going to be important for you to pay very close attention to because you're using your skills in the wrong way, which is
Mm-hmm.
why we said maybe we're doing business wrong. And I highly agree that that was that we've been talking about this kind of off camera, right? The last 3 months for me was realizing that I had been building my business wrong and we pivoted and it's a whole different thing now. And so that's what we're kind of moving to in this conversation.
Yeah, it's almost like what Rob and I said. You can swim against the tide if you want, right? And we heard this all the time. And I guess I have been just like a traditional swim against the tider. right? Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
hard-headed like most entrepreneurs. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to say, but I'm getting really tired. And wherever the tide
Mm-hmm.
is going it might not be that bad of a deal. So I've stopped swimming against the tide in this particular case and decided that, wait a minute, what if we took some things that are already working and interpolated on it? So here's a couple of examples. All right. So I've got some apps, of course, that I got some new apps that allow me to see what is the keywords, what is the big deal about basically about a YouTube channel, a YouTube video. So what if we interpolate it in this way? And this is where I found Mr. Beast was doing it. They were literally, man, interpolating. I ain't gonna say copy. I ain't gonna say, steal. Something that they saw somewhere
No,
else. They
Picasso
just make
said,
it better.
"Good artist copy, great artist steal."
Steal. They just made it better. They made it more visual, and then they put their brand behind it. So I was looking at a
Mm-hmm.
YouTube video that had a lot of views, and I put it into my keyword tool. I got a new one that I just bought, and it's not a keyword tool, but it's kind of an AI that I could change the ones I got. It's called Merlin. Let me just get into it, y'all. So anyway, it'll let me use Haiku, it'll let me use ChatGPT, it'll let me use all these different ones based on what I'm trying to do. And it sits like on my computer like Harper does. And if you never heard me say Harper AI, these are going more into the agents that just sit there until you tell them what to do. So I put the link in to the video, took out, the key points of what they were saying. And then I said, well, wait a minute. What could I change here or interpolate on that then allows me to have a similar type of video with all the power, but just from my brand, from my way, from my style? That's an interpolation number one. Now, I got this idea, this word, interpolation, from this dude that I was watching on YouTube that was talking about songs. So all he was saying is that songs have been an interpolation on. Not quite a copy, not quite a sample, but an interpolation, right? And let me
Mm-hmm.
show y'all what the definition of interpolation is. It's a weird definition because they talk about it in terms of mathematics. It says
Mm-hmm.
um, to interpolate. It says taking part of an existing now in this case a song. How do you interpolate a song? Taking part of an existing musical work and recording it into a new work. And we go, wait, we've seen this thing before, right? And you got to obviously worry about copywriting and all this kind of stuff. But an interpolation on a business model is like, wait a minute, this model works. Here, I'll give you an example. The business model of watching movie works. Well, we're going to provide movies to people. But the business model of we're going to provide them at a Blockbuster does not. But the key is be music, be videos, be shows, and then give it to people like they want it. That's an interpolation of a business model. So what if we just went around finding business models to interpolate on? That's an idea. It's idea number one. That's all we
Mm-hmm.
did, right? And I use business model of content creation. So let's interpolate a little bit. So I took the whole video. I asked Merlin in this particular case, or you could have used your ChatGPT, but ChatGPT will give you a little bit different answer because I tried it. And says, what is this all about? What are they talking about here? Then I said to
Mm-hmm.
it, I says, based on this information, I says, interpolate. This is how I put it. I says, interpolate this into something new and unique. Organize your data. First, put the data you've collected into a chart. Oh no, it's telling me organize your data. First, put it into a chart. Then I says go, and it came up with different words that it would use to say basically the same thing. Now,
Mm-hmm.
our copywriting friends, Todd Brown, not a real friend, but and John Benson, these guys talk about this. You take something and make it unique. Stop swimming against the tide.
Mm-hmm.
Interpolate.
Mm-hmm.
Take something
Mm-hmm.
and make it unique. So
Something that's
now,
and the key thing, something that's already working.
already working. exercise. Remember how Todd Brown and those guys, they like to talk about P90X. First they called it P90X. So somebody's going, what's that? So that's a pattern interrupt, everybody. Y'all get that? So you interrupt when you hear P90X. That's why car companies do it, by the way. Q30, like, ooh, P90X, but then it says, we're going to use muscle confusion. And you're like, oh. Well, the bodybuilders back in the day, the Arnold Schwarzenegger dudes, this is why they says we do full-on reps, we do half reps, because we're going to confuse the muscle. They just took it, modernized it, called it under P90X, and built a big business. That's an interpolation. So imagine all the things. Now, you could take this to all kinds of levels. In business, let's just go around finding already what's working, interpolate on it. Using a little bit of our AI, ChatGPT or otherwise, I use different GPTs, and then interpolate on them. Ask questions of it. How could we say this differently, do it differently? What would be the outline?
Now, this thing that you're bringing up, I think, for if you're out there like me and like how I was feeling when I used to hear this before, first question that pops in my head is, well, how do I do that? How do I even know what's working? And I think that part right there was something I didn't learn until a very long time in business. And even now, I'm still working to be comfortable with it. I'm reading Patrick Bet-David's book right now, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. And one of the things that he talks about is you have to investigate the competition. And I think one of the things that a lot of business owners will struggle with, and you might be in this space if this is you, I'm talking directly to you. You don't know enough about what works in your industry. And if you're in the space where you don't know enough about what works in your industry, you have to go start investigating what's working. A lot of times, many of us in the industry, many of us in entrepreneurship, we see the problems. We see what's not working. We see what needs to be fixed. And so we go immediately to go try to fix that. And we find a solution to that. The problem that we run into with our business is that we don't know how to then put that thing that works into the rest of the system that was working, because all we focused on was what was not working. And so it's important for you to call or to look at and to just even if you go on Google, one of the cool things that I've started doing recently is going on Google as my client, as if I'm my client, searching for my services. Just to see what pops up, to see what that experience is. If I have this problem, right? One of the things that we do right now, we're helping third-party logistics companies to improve throughput. So I go into Google and I'll type in help improving throughput for third-party logistics companies. And it's interesting because I get to see what the customer experience is trying to find help like mine. And so I then am able to see, first of all, what's working, what are the things that are popping up consistently when those queries are typed in, but I'm also able to see what's not there. What are they missing? Or how would I be frustrated if I was looking for that thing? How would I be frustrated if I was trying to find that so that I can fix it? So I think that it's important for you all to do a lot of research and understand what's working in your industry. What are the things that your clients like? What are the things, or not even your clients, your potential clients? What are the things that your competitors are doing very well?
Yeah.
Right. So that you can understand it. And sometimes you can't just do it from the Google queries and all the rest of that. Sometimes you got to go to trade shows. Sometimes you got to go and see them in their place of business. Sometimes you got to go and actually get into a space. Because here's the funny thing about business that there's like a dirty little secret. Just because somebody looks successful doesn't mean they are.
Correct. 100%.
Right. I was just coaching one of my clients. He's thinking about starting a business, and we were talking about it. And I was like, one of the things that you need to do is when you're going into, he's in the dog training industry. So he's looking at, getting certifications and talking to other dog trainers who have done business. I was like, one of the big things you want to do is you got to figure out a way to say, right, he wants to build a business that does about $200,000 to $300,000 a year in revenue. I'm like, one of the big things you want to make sure of is when you're talking to people about their dog businesses, that you in some way get into that conversation, say, I'm really looking to do about $200,000 to $300,000 of revenue. How was it when you first hit that? What was it like when you first got to $200,000 to $300,000 of revenue?
That's a fishing expedition.
A fishing question. Now, here's the reason why you're asking the question. Doesn't matter what they say. They could say, oh, it was amazing. It was this, it was that. Da, da, da. Now what you know is that they have hit $200,000, $300,000 of revenue. So what they're telling you is relevant to your journey. If they obfuscate or, well, we haven't really got there yet, or we weren't really thinking about it, or anything other than, yeah, no, I remember that moment. And you know that they haven't gotten
6
there
years
yet.
ago. Yeah.
Right.
I love that.
And
Ooh,
more importantly, you know that they may have good information for you, but it's not necessarily information that's on the journey that you're trying to be on. And that's a very, very important thing for you to pay attention to, because there's a lot of people that can help you, but sometimes the information that they give you will be the thing that hinders you from getting to the next level. Right. I remember when I was training to run a marathon, I had run 3 miles, I had run 5, I had run 7. So I talked to my friends who had run 3 miles, 5 miles, 7, even 10Ks, right? 6.5 miles, all the rest of that. The advice that you get from people who have not run a marathon but are runners is very different from the advice that you get from people who have run marathons. It's so amazing. And the things that are important to people who have run shorter races are very different from the things that are important to people who have run longer races. And so I want to, kind of.
Yeah, I love that.
Give you all the encouragement of make sure that you're getting to understand what's working in whatever industry that you're trying to get to, right? The first part of interpolation is picking something that works. Is picking something that is already in a space where it's working. Now you can take it and then put it into another place, but the first thing is knowing why it works.
And then, here's another one, everyone, is that, and this is where your GPTs can help you too, right? Your ChatGPTs, your Geminis, all these different ones I'll give you an actual thing that I ask it. So here's another tip is I'll say, okay, we see that this is working, but what do I say, here's the prompt. Do a gap analysis based on what we have determined that is working and tell me what's missing. Tell me what's left. Tell me what else I could do. And typically it comes up with something. And that could be your entry into it. So we often talk about you don't have to go wide oftentimes into an area. You can go very narrow just to get your foot in the door. All you're going to do is handle this. Just this sliver. And then once you get known for that, I think I remember listening to a dude talk about this once. He says, when they got into a particular industry, he says, we just went in with a very narrow segment. He says, we became the best in that segment, then expanded. Not trying to take on the bigs, because that was red ocean.
Brother, that part right there, I still think that is some of the most impactful yet difficult to follow advice that I got in my entrepreneurial journey. There have been, since I started business, I have had mentors who are 7-figure, 8-figure entrepreneurs who will say that same thing. You want to focus on one thing. And here's the thing that I've heard, and for the longest, it was the hardest thing for me to do. Focus on one thing and sell that one thing till you make $1 million. Then branch out and sell other things. I was like, but there's so much that I want to sell. There's so much that I want to do.
It's hard.
The key is understanding that building the system around that thing so that you can be so competitive in the market that you can now focus somewhere else. That is going to be, for many of you all out there in the entrepreneurial world, that is going to be one of the hardest things that you're going to struggle with. And here's a little tip that I will give you so that you don't got to struggle 10 years like I did trying to make it happen. First, find one thing in your marketplace that can make enough money that you would be willing to focus on it only. What happens a lot of times is you try to pick the one thing that you like the most or that is most interesting to you or whatever. But know that that one thing that you're focusing on, if it can't get you financially what you're trying to get to, that's not what you need to focus on. You can come to that later. You can come do it later, because once you learn how to build a system that builds something to $1 million, you can then apply that knowledge to anything else that you do. But first, pick something where you're like, if I can build this system the right way, I can make $1 million and it won't be that difficult. That is the first thing. Find the thing that is lucrative enough to capture your attention so that you will stick with it. Because otherwise, when it's not enough money to capture your financial goal, what you will do is you will get new shiny object syndrome at every new thing because you're constantly really chasing that financial goal, but you don't recognize that's what you're chasing.
And that's, I think what's important, even more important there is, listen, every road could take you there, but is it the road that is going to be the bumpiest? Right? So, and then getting clear on that is
Your
tough.
brakes and your shocks going to be all messed up by the
It
time
is. And then what you get, you can't get back. So when we think about that focusing opportunity, right? And when you ask these specific questions, now this is where your GPTs are really, really good at parsing information to then give you an idea. And you go, I never thought about entering this doorway. I didn't even know it existed. It's like, I use this house analogy a lot. I says, okay, your house, has many rooms. Everybody says yes. Okay, those many rooms could be businesses. So you start the one business, boom, that's the house. Then you have different rooms that then do different things. I said, but then the house itself has different doorways. Yes? Yeah, everybody agrees. Yes, it has different doorways. I says, now, if I had said, but are there other ways to enter the house? Many more opportunities. I can go through a window, right? I can go through the basement window. I can go through the side window. I can break it out and get in. The point is, there's all kinds. I can go through the chimney if I can fit. So all these become opportunities to get in that we may not be focusing on. So our job is to really say, I'm focused on getting in. Let me just pick an area. The best area, obviously, is going through one of the doors. But competition is saying, no, I'm not letting you in.
Right.
So that's where you strategize
Might be
another way.
Might be a line a mile long for that door.
Correct. So when we start thinking about, again, bringing in this ideal of interpolation, then if we interpolate in a way that we say, hey, wait a minute, what if I created my own way to get in? So if they won't let me in, maybe I interpolate a way to get them out. Right? So now while they're out, they're no longer not letting me in.
There you go. You moved from that red ocean to that blue ocean.
That's right. You've created, you've interpolated, you've came up with a way to still get in, focus on that thing, win, then look around and go, what else could we do? We now know how to do a thing to get to $1 million, what Rob was talking about, or whatever that is. And I think when we were talking about doing things wrong, I want to just share with you that entrepreneur is always trying stuff, right? You got to see yourself as a business scientist.
Yeah, it's the iterative process.
Yeah, and just keep on experimenting. And these ways in are your experiment. Now, I'm going to give you another example of something that I just did. So now this is here's what I did. Take this. Literally, I think I'll put on the thumbnail itself, copy this or steal this or something. So another one was, I was in my email the other day. And, I get all kinds of emails, right? And, one of the programs I got is, how to turn, regular random old emails into cash in your pockets, right? And everybody loves it every time I introduce it. So I get this random email from a realtor. And it's like, hey, it's so boring. But it was like, hey, we've done a study of houses in your area. And here is what they are going for. Well, that tells me nothing. It has no power. And I was a little bit upset because I was like, this is so boring. So what do? I look at that email. I pull out one of my GPTs or my agents, right? And you're going to be hearing more about agents. Depending on when you listen to this, everything is going to go from co-pilots, like the ChatGPTs, to agents that you just talk to and it goes out and does the thing for you. Okay. But anyway, so I fire up one of the agents that can read emails. I got a couple that don't read emails, but this one does. It goes right on top of the email and says, what do you want? You know, I say to it, hey, based on this email, what is the realtor trying to, what is the realtor doing, saying, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, well, based on this, it's saying that these are the houses in the area. So then I start asking questions of it. This is, again, we're taking something that's already existing, and then we're going further so that we can maybe make some business out of it. So I say to it, well, based on these criteria, crime statistics, square footage of house, area, all these different things, and trajectory of growth or something like that in the house. Tell me which is the best house to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Now get this. She should have did that as the realtor. And if, now what could I now, this is the put money in your pockets moment, ordinary email. I then use some of my tools, and in your case, you're going to use some of your tools to then interpolate information on that, add a couple of things, take from it, add this, question this, and then now could you go to an agent and say to them, well, based on this one, this is what you should create a separate landing page for. You want me to do it for you? I'll do it for you, or you get your people to do it for you. So you just create an agency to then help realtors sell better based on, because it's random information. Really, it was bugging me because it was too much information. I didn't know what to do with it. Okay, that's instance number one. Instance number two, ordinary information that you're now interpolating on and doing something different. This is instance number two. My insurance company, now these are all real live things, sends me the form that I get every year. Hey, your PIP coverage, whatever that means. The PIP and coverage needs to be updated. But they don't, I'm so upset. They don't give me a chance to change it. I said, well, I don't need unlimited because I got some other things going on, blah, blah, blah. Well, they're just saying sign the paper. So I put my GPT on the job. I says, hey, GPT, and I think I might have been using Haiku at that particular time. I was using one of them. Anyway, I says, what is this all about? What should I do? And it says, well, it condensed the information. It says, it seems like the insurance company is telling you that if you got it. I says, well, what is the best coverage that I should get? And then it told me, based on this, this is what they're suggesting. So then I continually asked it questions to help me make the best financial decisions. Right? Now, if I pick the unlimited, it's going to just be, crazy cost. If I pick this one, knowing that I got other things, could you also do that? Yes. People might not know that. You only got to be a couple steps ahead. People might not know, and you tell them, hey, look, just send me the information and I'll interpret it for you and give you a suggestion on, or our agency will give you suggestions on blah, 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 right? Or I'll sell you the tool. You go build the tool that's just like that tool, whatever. Now you're making money from something that just came to you that kind of irritated you. You ask, like Rob said, what's working? And then I say, what's gaps?
There it is. And you put the two together, interpolate them into a better scenario.
Yes. And that becomes the deal. Okay. Y'all want another one? All right. Okay. This one's kind of, I got to hold close to the vest because it's so good that I was sitting here going, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I had to go to the gym. I was like, dang, this is good. Well, so I send it over to this guy comes up with this thing that helps you write books. It's AI, but it just prompts you. Now, I remember back in the day when I was going to write books and stuff, having another one like this, but it was very rudimentary. It just kind of, it prompted you in a different way. First of all, it did it manual. It says, what do you want to write about? Have you thought about all the, now AI does that. And it prompts you. And all you do is what? Fill it in. So once you fill it in, then it sent me back like, here are suggested titles. Here are suggested chapters. I was like, oh my God. So in something like this, and this one was client-based, how would you like to help your clients? It was asking me questions like that. So what do? I says, could this also be used for people, get this, that are writing scripts? Because if you look at Perplexity today, information today is that there was a 100% AI script written premiere, and they canceled it because people were up in arms. Guess who those people were? All those writers that just came off
Writers.
strike, all those
Yep.
screenwriters and all that kind of stuff. But the point is, that's already out the bag. But I send it over to some of my
Mm-hmm.
screenwriting friends, and I says, hey, man, it might be worth it based on the fact that you've written screenplays for 20 years to
Mm-hmm.
create your own, like this book writing one. I says, literally, get somebody to just code it out just like that. Right. And you're going to see more of that. I've seen some already coming out. They got some white label stuff going out and people trying to get you in. The KDL lady, she's out there, saying, hey, write books for KDL. But in the back end, that's what she's selling. Okay. So get this,
Mm-hmm.
y'all.
Mm-hmm.
You see something, you interpolate on it, create a version for yourself because you can very fast using some outsource and some AI. Now you have one for your own
There
purposes,
you go.
perhaps. You could be writing books. I personally believe you can write a book a day. That's my in that's my opinion. With all the material that, and if you're over a certain age, get this, Rob, especially if you're older and you've got things accumulated and stuff to say. I'm literally thinking about spinning up a business just based on that. Of a certain
Mm-hmm.
age, it's going to be called, I shouldn't even tell y'all, 50 up startup, 50 and up startup, or 40 and up
Nice.
startup. So for people that are of a certain age and you want to start something, here's the easiest way to do it.
Nice. Nice.
Anyway, so that's all, everybody. That's what we want to share with you today. I forgot to ask you, hey, if you like this information, to go ahead and subscribe. Send this one. If you like this and you think it'll be of value to somebody, send it to somebody you like. Try that.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, y'all
Yeah.
might want to check this out. Right. Rob and
Yep.
I are going to be pushing out some information to you in the upcoming episodes that are going to be talking about how you can make all this stuff easier. We're going to show you some things that we do
Yeah.
personally, and then some apps and stuff. So be on the lookout for that.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Rob,
Some
what can we
tools and
leave
all
them
the
with?
cool stuff.
What can we leave them with?
Again,
Interpolation.
remember that you already have this skill. This is what you're good at. Remember that you just have to open your eyes up a little bit. You have to look and see the things that are out there. And as you continue doing that, you are going to transform your business, your life, and ultimately the impact you have on the world.
There it is, everybody. We will see you in the next episode.